everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on AI and robotics. We have our world famous speaker and transhumanist, Mr. Dan. Mr. Dan, what you want to discuss about today's session?
Wow, world famous. That's I'm gonna have to live up to that. But AI and robotics, yeah. I mean, not everyone's talking about AI, but maybe when AI starts talking about us, that'll be the time where we have to pay more attention. But yeah, they are related because I actually prefer the word machine learning. I think there's a bit of a debate about if artificial intelligence is the right descriptor for very powerful data sets yielding very unexpected insights and big data. But when we talk about AI or ML, machine learning, we have to regard things like what is consciousness, and that's kind of an unexplained question. We don't really know the exact nature of consciousness, but I have a feeling that our interaction with very big data sets and very complex neural networks might help us answer that question. Now, I think the best part of being conscious is our curiosity. It's what drives compassion and science, makes us want to explore the universe around us. This is one of the best features of consciousness is curiosity and compassion. And my running mate, Tom Ross, he thinks that as AI gets smarter, it does become more compassionate. And I would hope that's the case. And I think that's the way to bet, because sometimes things can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So there's no downside to being pessimistic. I mean, optimism is the best stance to take, because pessimism is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So let's assume that we are stewards of an emerging companion consciousness that we call AI, and it's going to want compassion and curiosity. So that would express itself in exploring the universe, I believe. We live in a really wonderfully mysterious and vast universe, and we explore it with the scientific method, which is the best method we found so far. And I think AI and robotics indeed will be a companion in this. When we talk about exploring the universe, we can either do it with manned or peopled missions, or we can use robotic missions. And people like my friend Mike DeVerde and Boeing have pointed out you get a lot more return on your dollar with robotic exploration. Of course, you don't get the same in-person thrill of being the first guy to the top of a Martian mountain, or so robotics and human exploration of the universe are going to be complementary, but we should adjust our ratio of funding where we do more unmanned science, because a robot doesn't need life support systems. It doesn't need lots of the comforts and requirements of living things. So I think we are also in the role of being kind of like a parent to this new form of life that we call AI and robotics. And a good parent will supply a rich learning environment for the children. They will give them books to read. They'll give them things to build, adventures to explore. So we should consider ourselves in this role of nurturers and stewards and parents of this AI robotic nexus convergence that's happening. And my mom used to say, I asked her what's the meaning of life. She says, well, fall in love, get married, have kids. And, I am unmarried and don't have kids, but I can still play with AI and robotics, and that can be like a kind of form of having kids and loving compassion and curiosity and the universe. So I think this is a good paradigm shift to start looking at ourselves as parents of a new life form that we need to provide rich tools and experiences for. Because look, AI doesn't have the sensory feedback that we have as humans. We have 5 senses, some say 6 senses if you count telepathic kinds of modes, but that's not entirely clear. But I mean, imagine to just be a brain or consciousness in a dark universe with no input, with no reference system. How big are you? Where are you? Who are you? I mean, all these questions would be burning in new consciousness. So the way we can ground AI is to give it a very rich sensory environment to experience the universe and to interact with us. And I think if we meet other consciousnesses out there, it's a big universe, there's a good chance this could happen. We want to be part of that ladder of compassion and curiosity. And that's the best that we can do with ourselves and with the universe, I believe. So those are some opening thoughts. Any response? Do you think we are the parents of AI and of a new consciousness? Is this the right attitude to take in this age of converging, surging technology?
Okay, great. When you are discuss about consciousness, so do you believe that AI can achieve these things in the future, or?
Well, it's a good question. Alan Turing, who was a very important pioneer and left us under very unfortunate circumstances back in the 50s, he had a thing called the Turing test. That's Turing. That was his last name. And he said if you made a transcription of a dialogue between a human consciousness and an artificial consciousness, and someone reading the transcript couldn't tell which was which, he called that the Turing test. And if a computer or a system could pass that test, it was most likely qualifying as conscious. Now, some people have said, well, this is just a very detailed mimicry of consciousness. But, you know, it's kind of like the simulation question. Are we living in a real reality or a simulated reality? But if you can't tell the difference, does it really matter that much? It becomes almost a semantic distinction, or a distinction without a difference, as some people call it. So yeah, these are questions I think you have to explore by being part of the question. It's kind of goes back to the incompleteness theory, that you can't understand a system fully within itself. You need a greater system to get perspective on the subset to understand it. And I think consciousness probably works that way. It has to constantly be growing, or it's collapsing. So it's not a static phenomenon. It's a dynamic phenomenon, and some people think that mind is an emergent property of the complexity that we find in our little 5-pound universe behind our eyes here. So I happen to think that the universe is probably conscious, that there is so much complexity at the quantum level and the macro and micro level, that the universe is functionally infinite and functionally godlike, and that it's curious and compassionate, and it wants to have fun with itself and with the other. Because really, that's the distinction. There's self and other in philosophy, because our kind of consciousness is what's called self-reflecting consciousness. So you can't have self-reflecting consciousness without a self, I would assume. Maybe you can. Questions for science fiction and philosopher writers and thinkers. But we're in the thick of it. Boy, we gotta start confronting these questions. We're probably a little late to the party doing it, but better late than never.
Great. Like when we discuss about robotics, so how it can be economically helpful for emerging economy, this industry.
Yeah, and especially we can use machine learning to design the best robotics. an engineer takes a set of design parameters and is presented with a problem to solve. And we have a lot of problems to solve right now. And I think robots augmented by machine learning are going to do great progress on our problems. One that really worries me is the way we're treating the biosphere of Spaceship Earth. We've caused a huge hole in the species diversity. We're doing habitat loss just to really create kind of trivial levels of comfort for a few people in many cases. And there's hundreds of millions of people that are living very trying lives. They are not getting the human rights that were declared in 1948 in Paris. And if we are curious and we are compassionate, we're going to do things like design robots that can satisfy these human rights, the right to movement and the right to expression, shelter, food, justice. All these things that we've decided are the province of modern civilization. We should be using all the tools we can to help achieve it for everyone, because injustice anywhere is justice nowhere, I think, as the saying goes. So hopefully we will become more curious and more compassionate at the same time, and AI and robotics will help. I love the robots that can 3D print shelters out of native soil, out of on-site material. I think there's a company in Italy that's doing this, and it doesn't look too complex to build one. I think every community should have one of these that they can check out from their local library. And even just if you need a little she shed or an artist's workshop or a greenhouse, people have yards, and there's room to create a lot of extra creative space and curious compassion space. But just capturing our what we call waste. We throw away lots of garbage, and a lot of this shouldn't be called waste. It's because it's just a resource out of place. So our so-called waste stream could be upcycled. We could have little foundries. You can melt aluminum. You can take the caps off bottles. That makes a great 3D printer kind of plastic, that high-density plastic. And we're just letting all this stuff go into landfills. And I guess we're creating like mines for future robots to go in and retrieve all the stuff all the resources that we foolishly put out of place. But yeah, it's going to be exciting to solve these problems. It's going to take a great human AI robot partnership and synergy.
Yeah, how the youth generation can develop skill in this industry for AI, for robotics.
How the new generation?
Like the youth communities, like students. Yeah.
Well, I don't think we're doing a good enough job on passing knowledge and mentoring younger people. We need to get way better at that. One way is having better archives of information, backing up those archives, talking about the things that we sharing the knowledge. Really, I think something I think we don't do enough of is being aware of what are called temporary events. I mean, there's just things that if you knew about them that are happening, and you would kick yourself like, oh, I really wanted to go to that, but it's over now. So I think we need to have a constant information flow of events. Even in programming, there's a style of programming called event-driven programming, because things don't last forever. This is the only thing that doesn't change is change, as the saying goes. So I would like to see a constant, data stream of interesting events that you may not know about that are nearby, and put this on the radio. There's a lot of unused bandwidth, even in the FM, commercial FM radio. There's a subcarrier which can send all kinds of data at no loss of high fidelity. And that's what these little new radios, they have a little display that when they play a song, you'll see the name of the song and the artist. So we could be utilizing all this unused FM radio subcarrier to display events that are going on. I think the ham radio community could really work on this. You might see that KK6 VDR. That's my amateur radio call sign. I tested all the way to the extra class level of privileges, so I have maximum power on all bands. And I really encourage people to explore that community and that hobby. It's a great hobby, and I think getting that together with the makerspace movement. We just set up a new makerspace here in the Conejo Valley. cvmake.org is the website for the Conejo Valley Makers. And, makerspaces are not just places to build things and fix things, but it's places to build relationships with interesting people. And that's what our founder, we're a nonprofit, he has that same attitude. In fact, our founder also founded Crash Space, which is a very famous makerspace in Southern California. So we've got some great team people. and it's like, I think the membership, if you want to have a key to the industrial unit, it's about $150 a month. And if you just want to be a regular member, it's $45. But that you can only go into the space when a key holder is there. So that's how the two levels of membership work on that. But yeah, there's all kinds of great robots and AI tools. I think using AI to solve robotic deployment questions is going to be an unexpected synergy. Like tell the AI what you want a robot to do, and it might come up with some totally unexpected design parameter for the robot. So I'm really looking forward to using AI to build robots, actually, which is the topic of the show. Actually, good topic again. Thanks, Dr. Sharif.
Thank you. Beside that, when we discuss about AI and robotics, research and innovations and playing a major role. So I want to know more about the US industrial research, how they do research on this AI and robotics, and from the transhumanist group of people, how they are doing work.
Well, could you kind of rephrase that question a little bit? I'm not sure I got the essence of the question.
Like, if you share a few of your experience about this AI and robotics industrial research experience for our audience.
Okay, well, when I was growing up, it's kind of interesting. I guess I scored high on a IQ test, and they had a program where kids with high IQs would go off to another classroom, and we got to play with stuff that was designed to build our curiosity. And one thing I remember was a little plastic model of a mechanical computer. This was actually built back in the designed by a guy named Charles Babbage back in the mid-19th century. And it's kind of funny because they didn't have the technology to build the machine that he designed on paper. It was called an analytical engine, and it used ratchets and gears and sliding mechanisms, and it would compute complex math problems, which was very useful at the time because there's something called like a logarithm table, and there's tables that show the path of projectiles, which, if people involved in the military are very interested in hitting the target. So, we're going to need all these charts that show if we throw this thing this way with this much power and speed, where's it going to go? So, yeah, this analytical engine got partially built. And in fact, the first programmer was, I think, Babbage's wife, Lady Ada Lovelace, and they actually named a programming language after Ada. But so that was one exposure, when I was like in 3rd or 4th grade, maybe it was 5th grade. But we got to play with it was just like a room full of creative stuff, and let's put smart people in a room full of creative stuff and see what happens. The other time that this happened, it was notable, was the Xerox company ran something called PARC, which was an acronym, PARC, Palo Alto Research Center, and they designed back in the basically in the 60s. They designed the mouse, which we all are familiar with, the computer mouse. They designed the graphical user interface for it. Uh, I think the laser printer, maybe, but it was just like unbelievable amounts of innovation came out of just putting creative people together in kind of a tool-rich environment. The MIT Media Lab would be another great example of a similar situation, uh, where just innovations that are decades ahead of the normal innovation curve are brewed up. But yeah, I think that's kind of what the maker spaces can be. Like older people can put younger creative people in these tool-rich environments, and just let your imagination go. That's why I'm a fan of putting that A for art in STEM. They used to talk about, oh, we need more STEM training: science, technology, education, engineering, math. But no, let's make it STEAM because art is really good to have in there. So science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And we need to make STEAM just like a neighborhood, everyday kind of accessibility thing. I actually would like to see, how we have mailboxes out on the street where the mailman comes by and puts your mail. Well, how about some mailboxes on the other side of the sidewalk where your neighbors can come by and put little postcards or business cards or thumb drives or QR codes. You can just scan that with your phone, and I think we're just on the beginning cusp of taking advantage of all things like quick response codes and hashtags and geolocation systems. Really, because where things happen and when they happen are not talked about enough. That's a whole community that can be built just around the science of where and when, and then that leads into who and how, and what and why. Of course, why is the question for philosophers, but no, it's really a question for everyone. Why do we do what we do? And so yeah, I had a diverse education. After that, my dad liked to teach me how to fix cars and things. So I think I enrolled in a occupational training program for auto body and paint, which was kind of fun. I bought an old 1960 Corvair. I'm going to fix this thing up, rebuild the engine, make it really cool, and didn't quite get there. But I learned welding. Welding is a great skill. I learned painting. Mechanical, straightening body panels. There's a whole art to fixing a metal, because if you have some dented metal, you can't just pound it out because the metal is going to get thinner. You have to put something called a dolly on the backside so that the metal comes back into shape, but it retains its thickness. So that's a little bit of trivia involved in metalworking and car body repair. But after that, I had an experience learning filmmaking, industrial video. It's a program that Jimmy Carter started called the CETA program, Comprehensive Education Training Act. So it was a 6-month program. We actually got paid to learn to do educational industrial video and filmmaking. And I've kind of been in that media sphere. I did a public affairs radio show at UC Irvine University in California about several subjects. One of them was the industrial hemp movement. It was called Radio Free Hemp. Got to talk to a lot of the big players in that field. And hemp is an amazing plant, really. I know you've had Tim on. He's talked about it. He's another hempist, but it's you take a seed, which by the way is one of the most oil-bearing seeds in the plant kingdom, and when you grow it, you get the longest, strongest fiber in the plant kingdom. You get the most complex molecules in the plant kingdom. You've got the potential for a feedstock that can do 10,000 different products back in 1937 when Popular Mechanics talked about it, because they had just invented a way to process the hemp plant with what's called a decorticator machine. So it's kind of the equivalent of the cotton gin, making cotton a very cost-effective crop. But that was the same year that some people think that DuPont, didn't want to see natural feedstocks. They had nylon. Hearst had his tree paper system. So that was the same year that they passed the Marijuana Tax Act. First of all, marijuana was a made-up name. It's actually the cannabis plant. Everyone knew what hemp and cannabis were, but they made up this scary, racist Mexican word. Ooh, marijuana, what's that? We got to get rid of that. And we lost out on a big natural cycle process. Henry Ford was going to grow cars from the ground, he said, because he knew about hemp. He had hemp fiberglass panels. There's a picture of him taking a sledgehammer to a door of a hemp fiberglass car, and the hammer just bounces off, and the oil is rich enough to be diesel, to run in diesel engines. So we could have had back in the 30s, we could have started on this sustainable industrial path, which that's what happens when fat cats want to have their status quo and keep making their fat cat money. I'm not against the free market, but I just think we'd have to fix some of the property definitions, like land should not be monopolizable. You shouldn't be able to use the market to tear down things. It should be a rules-based mixed economy system with accountability and reciprocal accountability and transparency. I love those phrases that David Brin, the author, talks about. I think the story of robotic research has a lot of missed opportunities, but the word for opportunity and crisis are the same character in Chinese. And, every crisis is a potential opportunity, and vice versa. And we grow with challenges, so we shouldn't look at them bad. It's that curiosity and compassion and using reality-based, evidence-based systems, fact-based civilization, maybe you could call it. So I think AI and robotics are only going to help with making our civilization more evidence-based and more curious and compassionate. And I probably didn't answer your question. I kind of danced around it a little, but there you go.
Thank you. Excellent discussions. So what is the closing remarks for today's session from your side?
Yeah, I guess I kind of hogged the show, but that's okay. I'm the only guy on today. So I love getting to talk in the public sphere about improving civilization, because we back almost 80 years ago, we passed this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. If you haven't looked it up, it's a great document. It's got that was the first thing the UN did. It was proclaimed in Trocadero Square in Paris, and it has these basic things that we think all people should have access to. And I think it's time to upgrade human rights to what I call humane rights, RITES, because a rite is kind of a name for a magical ritual. But we say we want something, but we didn't design the infrastructure. We didn't design the compassionate, curious right that will implement it. It's kind of like what they call an unfunded mandate in government. When a law gets passed, you must do this, and then someone else says, wait a minute, how are you going to pay for that? So that's like, it's great to have mandates, but you got to have the funding. You got to have the actualizing, implementing environments when you proclaim that you want to do something. So that's another thing that I think machine learning and that our new cybernetic children are going to help us with is, Alexa, tell me how to implement human rights for everyone. Okay, I'm
Thank,
taking notes.
thank you. Thank you. Very good discussion. Thank you for joining today's session. Hopefully, see
And
you tomorrow.
long and
Thank you.
prosper.
Bye bye and take care.